So I'm Trevor Koverko, the co-founder of Polymath, and I am very excited about one thing, and that is security tokens. That's kind of defined my crypto career. And I'm happy to say that things are more exciting than ever, and 2021 is really poised to be the year of the security token. And I've said that a couple years in a row, but I think you'll see why this time it's for real. And that's what I want to do today, is just kind of give a high-level overview of the state of the union of security tokens. So that's kind of my objective, and I hope it works out. So what is a security token? That is how we're going to start. And I just define it as ownership of a financial asset that lives on a blockchain. So tokenized stocks, bonds, real estate, derivatives, that is what a security token is. Today, unfortunately, much of the financial system still operates on legacy infrastructure that was in many cases built in the 1980s using COBOL code. And we think there's proof of that if you look at the anachronisms of today's financial world, like private share certificates that are pieces of paper that get lost. I've had that happen to me. It kind of shows to the world that I think it's time for an upgrade. And who else thinks this? You know, what else? Is it just me talking in the wilderness? And I think not anymore. We're seeing some high-profile people. I'm going to list off a few quotations here that I think should get everybody excited about where this industry is going. From Mr. Matty Greenspan from eToro, over the next decade, we could very well see the tokenization of the entire financial market. Charles Hoskinson, next one up. He's a dear friend of the project, might be getting a shout out later. He said, "We predict a rise in the potential and demand for tokenized securities because digital ownership on the blockchain provides so many advantages over legacy investments." Thank you, Charles. From the Winklevoss twins, there are quadrillions of dollars of financial securities, and building a blockchain to secure them is an incredibly exciting task. And finally, this is from Fortune's article, I think in combination with the DTCC, entitled appropriately "Trickle, Trickle, Flood," foreshadowing the avalanche of financial securities migrating to the blockchain. The subtitle was, "The security token market is poised to emerge as institutional infrastructure is finally coming online." That is the key point. The reason it's taken a while, and a while is all relative, like a few years is nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it's really about the other pieces of infrastructure like tokenized ATS licensed exchange, tokenized custody providers, tokenized enabled transfer agents. All of these kind of chain links need to come together for this industry to flourish. And if just one link in that chain isn't operational, then the whole thing falls apart. So we need all these things. I'm proud to say I could probably name 5 or 6 venture-backed companies in each one of those infrastructure categories, which tells me we're almost ready. I want to give some more highlights from around the world of security tokens. From CoinDesk earlier this year, the SEC proposal could eventually unleash security token sales. That's the headline. Forbes came out with an article saying security tokens come to retail investors. That really is the dream, the holy grail. The INX IPO, I think they announced a $117 million IPO. We know these guys super well, and we're very excited to have them as part of the industry, bringing the dream of more liquidity to this industry is what gets me excited. But look, aside from just these headlines, the industry traction is really starting to accelerate. I like looking at, so that was the past, now we're in the present. The publication stomarket.com tracks the market cap of security tokens and the volume, just kind of like CoinMarketCap for utility tokens. And I've been following it this year, and pretty much most months the market cap doubled across the entire industry. And volume has grown even faster, tripling a lot of months. And yes, it's still a small number, but not for long. If those trajectories continue and that hockey stick keeps going, that's kind of more of what we can expect. All right, so why security tokens? Let's back up a little bit. Let's make sure we're not just a solution chasing a problem here. This is really the question on everybody's mind. Why do these things need to exist? I have a brokerage account. I can still trade. It seems to work fine today. Well, here's why you should expand your horizons. Some core advantages of security tokens over the legacy world, in no particular order, are the potential for 24/7 markets, never closes, no stat holidays, like the stock market. Fractional ownership, Satoshis versus dollars, that's a big difference. Smart contract enablement that allows for programmatic regulatory compliance. We know this intimately. If you put KYC on chain, you can actually make it a lot more efficient to do cross-border trading, which is still very hard today. It's hard for an American to buy a Chinese native stock, and I think the barriers will fall down here. Next one, asset interoperability, not just regulatory arbitrage, but assets can be interoperable now on smart contracts because it's code that's executed rather than just pieces of paper. Confidentiality, that's another big one. How can we make transactions more private? This isn't just like for underground criminals. This is like for businesses that don't want their trades to be public and have their IP being stolen. Next one, this is kind of I've been saying holy grail a lot, but this is the true holy grail, is secondary trading and having this liquidity premium for being liquid that was previously illiquid. That's the dream here, and we really want to see more market depth from when it comes to liquidity. So that's another reason. But those are just kind of bells and whistles. The next thing I really want to talk about are specific problems. As an entrepreneur, I always said you got to solve for painkillers and not vitamins. Bleeding neck wounds. So here's some problems that security tokens solve, we think. Number one, there's a few kind of key ones I like to talk about. Inefficiencies. So pieces of paper and human transfer agent approvals and inaccuracies of cap tables for private companies. This is all history with blockchain and smart contracts that should all go away. Number two, lack of automation. In today's world, in a lot of cases, it's hard to have kind of if X, then Y execution, and with smart contracts, that's very possible. Opaque markets, especially in the context of regulators, they have no real-time access to private markets. Just speed is the next one. That's number four. Just slow execution. T3, a lot of that is not technology restricted, but we can speed up the market, I think, substantially with blockchain in the intermediate future. But that's not the main one. The main one I want to talk about is cost savings, and I think this is really the key painkiller, because that's really what everyone can agree is always a pain point, is spending money in fees and costs. And when it comes to creating, managing, and trading securities, we have a lot of unnecessary fees that go to rent seekers that I think we can eliminate. The example I want to use quickly is a company I'm a big fan of, backed by Morgan Creek Digital, called Figure, and Provenance is their blockchain, and they're tokenizing HELOCs, home equity lines of credit. Excuse me. And what the CEO, I read in a report, said he's been able to save, I think it's like 150 basis points in the end-to-end transaction and unnecessary fees, which is a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, especially when we're talking about billions and eventually trillions of dollars. So cost savings, that's going to be the theme, I think, of 2021. To sum all this up, I want to read a quote here. It's a bit long, so sorry for that, but it's important, from the OECD in a 2020 report, the tokenization of assets and why they need to exist. Quote, asset tokenization has become one of the most prominent use cases of DLTs in financial assets, including securities, commodities, and other non-financial assets like real estate, and with potential cross-cutting implications for market infrastructure and regulators across a large range of financial instruments and asset classes. End quote. Key point, OECD. That's super, you can see me smiling. Just having these global institutions talk about security tokens and being bullish on it is super validating for me. Next up, how big is this market? It's big, and this is another thing that gets me excited. The addressable market for security tokens is clearly in the trillions of dollars, comprising not just of global stock markets. We're talking 100 trillion of that, but a much bigger, that is dwarfed by the illiquid asset class that I think will benefit even more and sooner from this technology. So just to sum that up, I think it's safe to say that after a slow start, depending on how you define slow, security tokens are finally beginning to deliver on these promises of benefit to society. And we're talking billions of dollars of actual or planned issuances by businesses, banks, and governments coming up. We're talking JP Morgan, we're talking the World Bank, we're talking China. It doesn't get any bigger than that. All right, so part two. So we're still kind of in the present. Let's go back to the past a bit. What about Polymath? And I promised Mo I'd spend the majority of the presentation not talking about my own company. But I want to do a quick kind of self Q&A here on Polymath and where we've gone and where we're going. So what's our mission? Let's start with that. That's the most important thing. Our mission is to automate and simplify capital markets through blockchain. And by doing this, I think we'll play a key role in ubiquitizing and commercializing security tokens globally. And how are we doing this? We're building across the entire security token stack. There's different layers to it, the layer 1 blockchain, the layer 2 kind of smart contract layer, and then the other interfaces and service providers on top. So we're really vertically integrating that whole stack. I think that's what makes us unique, and all of our products kind of work together to proliferate security tokens. Who is our target? They are regulated financial institutions. This separates us from, I think, a lot of other blockchain projects. We're going for the big boys. And more specifically, we like to talk about custody providers. That's a big user profile for us. Also broker-dealers. That's very, very important for us strategically. All right, so how did we get here? Just a quick step back in time yet again, just to give some context. In 2015, I sold a company, and from that, I started a fund, and I partnered with my buddy from Goldman Sachs, and we wanted to go to the other side of the table from founder to investor. And right around that time, Ethereum was emerging right here in Toronto, right in the backyard here. And we said, hey, wouldn't it be a great idea if we could tokenize our fund? And it could help us fundraise, it could help us get liquidity, it could help us automate our back office and eventual proxy voting and dividend payments. But we quickly learned that tokenized securities bring major legal and technical challenges to the table. So we said, what if instead of launching this little tokenized fund, what if we could actually make it possible, make it easy to tokenize anything from derivatives, commodities, private companies, you name it. And that's what we did. In 2018, we launched Polymath on top of Ethereum. The reason we chose Ethereum was because it enabled us to move quickly. We launched 200 security tokens in short order. We launched a standard that was widely used called ERC 1400. It's been piloted by BNP via an investment they made in Curve and Consensus and many others. A quote here, again, from the OECD was, an industry-led initiative called ERC 1400 has been promoting the development of a standardized framework for the tokenization of securities, which resulted in the ERC 1400 standard. So very cool. We were actually in that report. And again, I get really excited when I hear those kind of multinational institutions get excited about this. Another highlight from us last year was Red Swan, which announced they're tokenizing over $2 billion of real estate using our Ethereum product, which is very exciting. But I want to pivot real quick to talk about Polymesh. That is the base layer of the stack, something we've allocated a lot of time and resources into that we're really excited about. And we think it's an even bigger vision than what we've built so far. So as much as we love ETH, we know it's just not a suitable home for security tokens. Our tier 1 partners, financial institutions that did due diligence on our tech stack, said, hey, we love what you guys have done with ERC 1400. Standardization was a major pain point, but we're just not comfortable with Ethereum. And there's 4 main things we found was the common denominator. Governance, what happens if there's a fork on Ethereum? Where does the asset go? Not sure. Identity, is this a layer 1, class 1 object on the chain, or is it something else? Compliance, how do you think about making sure regulators have access to reporting tools? And finally, confidentiality, which we talked about before. So we really asked ourselves, what would a purpose-built layer 1 security token blockchain look like? I called up Charles Hoskinson. I told you I'd give him a shout out from the Ethereum founding team and Cardano. And he agreed to advise us on our initial architecture and helped us refine our thesis. And ultimately, we decided to put all of our weight behind what we believe is the most exciting opportunity in all of crypto. And not just crypto, but capital markets. We think this is the #1 opportunity out there. And that is to build a custom blockchain for the coming wave of trillions of dollars of financial assets migrating to the blockchain. And after 3 years of learning and scaling and building the team, we think we're uniquely qualified today to distribute this blockchain. It's coming later this year. Just a quick piece of news here is one of the validators, we call them node operators, that we can announce is Digivault, whose parent company Diginex recently listed on the NASDAQ, and even more recently did a private placement for $39 million. So little teaser here, we got a lot more coming. But that's my brief State of the Union. I want to give a quick shout out to Mo Levin again, thanks for doing this, and my executives for doing an amazing job. We've been quiet the last kind of 18 months, just focus on building. So Chris Hauser, my co-founder, Thomas Burrell, Chief Product Officer. Also special shout outs to Mike Buchanan, Mohammed, and Rachel and Adam from the marketing and engineering team. And I'm 1 minute over. Please don't cut me down. I wanted to get those names in. And thanks again, y'all. Can't wait for next year.